Financial wellness. Reach out to them for advice at 855-DON-GINO. And now back to your hosts, Don Getling and Gino Fronti.
Here we are at the last portion of the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show that happens for you every Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHCS, for Don Getling, Gino Fronti, and our friends get to share with you what you need to know, want to know, and should know about real estate, finance, your life, your community. So much. I like our job. It's kind of fun.
It's
the most fun of the week.
It is, and you always say that the fourth quarter of our show is always the last and saddest quarter of our show because we got to leave soon.
But today
it actually is sad because we're going to talk about untimely tragedies and how they can affect you. And the reason we're going to talk about that is because it's important. It's super important that we know that it could be a reality in our lives.
Well, here it is. I have a crystal ball here. I don't know if it tells you when you're going to die or I'm going to die or your spouse or anybody. It does not tell you that.
But it does say you're going to die.
There you go.
100% of the time.
Nice 100%. You know?
Yep.
That's good.
100% of the time.
Yes. It's one thing you're not going to escape. You just don't know when. So I know nobody likes to talk about death. But it happens, and we brought Lisa in because she's going to talk about some of the tragedies she has seen because some of you are not prepared. I'm sorry, I'm going to point at you. But some of you are not prepared, and it's not fair to your spouse, bottom line. So explain what you've been seeing, because this is tragic. It's horrible for the spouse that's dealing with certain things that they did not see coming.
And I hate to say this, but I feel like 2016 might have been the year of death. I feel like, I don't know if there's any statistics on it, but it feels like there was more deaths this year than in any other year that I remember, at least that were close to me, because I currently, like I mentioned,
You're getting older, bottom line.
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay.
Sorry. I'm finding it more and more every year. I'm like, darn it.
But this year, I've represented 6 different widows, and
that's sad.
All widows, all with husbands who died in untimely deaths. And
so that's 6, not 1.
No,
not 2. That's 6. Yeah.
And you mentioned these are, we were talking about untimely. Well, in the 40s to 50s, right?
Yeah.
The age group generally?
Every single one in this particular group. I mean, I've represented lots of widows over the time, but this particular group from like late 2015 till the present were all, one was in their late 30s. The rest were all 40s and 50s.
Seriously?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you don't plan on that?
No.
I mean, I'm in my 50s. I don't plan on dying soon.
No. And not all of them were, some of them were health related. Some of them were tragic accidents. So it's been very interesting to see the progression of the widow. It's a very difficult thing. And one of the first things that I noticed is the widows whose spouses were much more prepared. I have one of my more recent clients that's a widow. Her husband and her had planned pretty darn well. I think we have like 2 little things that we have to deal with. But they didn't have an estate plan. So that was because we got lucky that everything was jointly held. It had joint tenancies. So everything went to the survivor. Sounds very simple. There was a couple of parcels of property that weren't. So we have to do little small probates. Luckily, California has something known as a spousal property declaration that we're able to use to get those parcels into her name. Now, the 2 of my widows that have had the spousal property issue, it sounds great and it is pretty easy, but we have to wait 4 to 5 months to get a hearing date. So they're kind of ready to just get it all done, and they don't want anything kind of lingering. And unfortunately, we're at the mercy of the probate court. So there's, first issue of not planning. The bigger issue that I've had this year with my widows is business ownership. Almost all of them had husbands that almost all of them were stay-at-home moms or didn't have full-time jobs or, just didn't work at the same level that their husbands did, and had businesses that had to be handled post-passing.
Which is not, they weren't part of the daily activities.
No, right. Not at all. In fact, and that's been a very interesting thing. A couple of them have really stepped up to the plate, but when I'm talking to them very honestly, I get the true, we talk about it, and there's tears sometimes, us sitting at the table. I didn't sign up to be in this profession.
Oh yeah.
It's scary, and you don't know what you're doing, and you're trying to figure out, you have to learn new languages sometimes, in the sense if it's in a construction or, in software, or some things that you might not have any familiarity with, and you have to figure it out. And this is because we didn't do business succession planning. We didn't have, an eye towards what would happen in the, unlikely but ended up happening event.
I'm
made
going to
us
stop you
think about
right.
it.
I'm going to stop you right there, because when I'm talking to people about your services, what I'm always talking to them about is that you bring up all the what ifs.
Yep.
And I think that's what, when I sit down in front of you, it's like, what if this, and what if that, and what if this, and what if that? And through all your years of experience with all your clients, you've seen all these unfortunate things happen, and those create your what if questions for your next client.
Absolutely. The issue of business succession planning, I can't tell you how so many of my business owner clients have this mistaken belief that their business is done if they're not here. And unfortunately, that is often, fortunately and unfortunately, can be a great asset, but unfortunately, it's not always true. And your business still has to be wound down, even if you're not there selling all of your goods and merchandise anymore. There's still somebody who's got to take care of winding it down, making sure it's closed properly.
Machinery,
absolutely,
payroll, letting people go.
Exactly. There's so many issues that arise, and there's also tons of potential liabilities. I mean, one of my clients in particular, the industry was a very tough industry, construction related, and there was a ton of potential liabilities that had to be thought about. I mean, it's not an easy matter to,
which was left on her plate.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can happen to anyone. And
Right.
The other thing that I think people also aren't thinking about as business owners is they assume that their business is dead when they're dead. But what they don't realize is they may actually be foreclosing a significant asset that has a total future value that can be continued on if they properly train the people within
Has
their
some
own company.
succession plan of
Yeah. Right.
other
Business
plans on the back end.
Exactly. Business succession planning is more than just looking at, how is my wife going to deal with this business, or how's my husband going to deal with this business? It can also be about who can I train to take this over so that my wife can get a payout and the business can continue on. It's sometimes about creating a legacy, and people don't always see that the legacy potential is there. And so it's a very interesting and important part of not only, your business practices, but your estate planning. And it's something I'm just wildly passionate about, and have
Obviously.
gotten and I've gotten more passionate about it because of what I saw this last year. This last year was really tough for a couple of my clients, really tough.
And if you just tuned in, we're here on the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show. We're here with Lisa Odom with Pull and Shaffrey. Lisa, in case, hopefully a lot of you are listening going, you know what, let me just they can talk to you and figure it out,
Mm-hmm.
because I know we're so glad that we spoke to you, because you do bring up the what is. How can they get a hold of you?
You can call me at 661-290-2991. It's the best place, probably the best way.
All right.
Or email. Email at lodom@poolshaffrey.com.
So what I was about to jump into too is you said that a lot of times the solution could be life insurance, even though you're not selling life insurance, that you've seen that those that do have life insurance have been way better off than those who haven't.
Life insurance is actually probably one of the best ways to bridge the gap between being a married person and going into being a widow or a widower. I am a huge proponent of life insurance. Within my own family, I had a spouse who ended up with cancer at a very young age, and we went through a 5-year period where we had small children and no life insurance on his life. And the day he became a cancer survivor, which was 5 years after the cancer diagnosis, he got life insurance. Life insurance can be the make or break for, especially, when you think about a mom who stays at home and her husband's the breadwinner. I mean, what does she live off of if her husband died? She'd have to obviously get a job. And listen, all of us moms are fighters. All of us dads are fighters. Will we figure it out? Sure. Will it be substantially more difficult and complex without it? I mean, especially if I could talk to every young family, every 25 to 40-year-old family, I'd be like, why don't you have insurance?
Cheap too.
It's
Absolutely.
so cheap
At that age.
So cheap at that age.
It's honestly like money spent frivolously. I mean, look, you could get $1 million or $2 million for like $100 or $200 a month. I mean, it's
a year.
They spend money
a
on
year.
they spend money on just ridiculous things and don't have life insurance.
All right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have to head out.
So
Again,
sad.
I know we always run out of time. I know you're like, well, what exactly we want to dive into? But I love that you brought up I'm sorry. Unfortunately, for a lot of you out there, we had to bring up tragedy, but these are real life experiences that we want to protect you from, and you need to protect your family. I'm sorry. We're here as advocates to help you protect your family, either way, or your business partners. Gino and I have life insurance on each other, because if one does go, it's going to be very difficult for that transition because we each cover a certain portion of our business. So make sure you reach out to someone we had that whole group, America's Professional Resource Group, aprgi.com. It's got everyone, but really reach out to Lisa Odom. Again, what's your phone number again?
661-290-2991.
Or go to Pool and Shaffrey. Thank you again for being part of our awesome show today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
And thank you for being part of the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show. Find out more at donandgino.com and
Be good humans.